The detailing and quality of execution on this dial is definitely above this watch price point. However, it wasn't the dial that grabbed my attention when I unpacked this watch, well, not in the first instance anyway. At $70 price tag and being a brand that I've never experienced before, my expectations about this watch overall were very modest, to say the least. So, did this timepiece surpass my expectations, and is it really all about dial? Well, we have it here, so let's find out. Hello and welcome back. Okay, we have a few questions to unpack here. First, why Specht Sohne? There are other brands that release similar homages, so why not them? Then, of course, what's the build quality and what type of movement do we have here? Yes, it is Miyota, but does it hack? And, of course, how does this thing wear? Price. So, first the price. The $70 price tag that I mentioned at the start of this video is the price of this watch after all the Black Friday special coupons are applied. Normally this watch is priced around $85, but as we know with AliExpress, next sale is only around the corner, so with a bit of patience there is always an opportunity for a great deal. Now, why Specht Sohne? Well, there are a couple of other alternatives to this watch on AliExpress. However, one of them, which is priced similar, is somewhat underwhelming, at least on the product pictures, and another one is almost 4 times more expensive. So this Specht Sohne option is a very compelling one, at least from the pricing perspective. Okay, this is my first time with Specht Sohne, so it's worthwhile to see what type of packaging do we get here. So really nothing special, a cardboard box with a cushion inside. Also included are unsigned warranty card, not sure how useful that is, and a bracelet adjustment tool. Now this one is very useful and it's sufficient enough to adjust the bracelet, so this is good. Dimensions. So we have just under 38.5mm fixed bezel and 40mm case width with 10.8mm case height. Very good proportions, and 10.8mm slim case actually even looks thinner than the measurement suggests. Now the width of the integrated bracelet by the case is 25mm, and we have a really well managed bracelet taper down to 16.5mm by the clasp. The lug-to-lug distance is 46.4mm, which is really good. However, the first link on the bracelet has very little, if any, articulation, so it makes sense to measure the distance between the end links, and it is just over 51mm, which isn't too big but not compact either. So the saving grace here is that aggressive down angle of the end links. So we will see how this watch wears on my about 7-inch wrist and on a slimmer 6.25-inch wrist later in this video. The supply stainless steel bracelet should fit wrists up to 8.25 inches or 21 centimeters in circumference, and this watch weighs 149 grams and 136 grams after adjusting it to my about 7-inch wrist. A pretty good weight for a fully stainless steel timepiece. In terms of case design, Specht Sohne did pretty well. Okay, design is maybe a bit of a stretch. We can clearly see here very strong influence of IWC Ingenieur. However, to Specht Sohne credit, they put their own spin on this case looks, and I must say they did a pretty decent job. We have nice and prominent fixed bezel with 5 screws. Such bezel is of course a very distinct element of Gerald Genta's iconic design approach. I like the combination of polished screws heads and circular brushing on top of the bezel, which is then nicely framed by the bezel's mirror-polished bevel and sides. The top and the sides of the case have longitudinal brushing, which is very tastefully broken by mirror-polished chamfers that run along the top and bottom of the flanks. And at only 10.8mm tall, the case looks slim and elegant, and well done Specht Sohne for managing to fit Miyota 8215 movement into such a slim case. We have very nicely sculpted crown guards, which almost fully protect the crown while not breaking the elegant lines of the case. And we have a screw-down crown here, which I think is a very good functional decision. The crown is unsigned, but I'm not too concerned at this price point. Turning the case around, and we have brushed finish and an exhibition screw-on case back. Nice, simple and practical. Okay, there's one thing that I don't particularly love about this case, and it is its total flatness of the lugs. That is, the lugs are not angled down, like at all. It got me even a bit worried about how this watch will sit on the wrist. Okay, the very slim and elegant profile of this case somewhat balances this flatness out, as we will see in a moment when we examine the bracelet. And also, as a bit of consolation, IWC Ingenieur has very similar flat case. Okay, however, there is one thing that I really like about this case, and it is practicality. Specht Sohne quite conservatively declared only 50 meters of water resistance on this watch. However, the screw-down crown and screw-on back case does provide that additional level of confidence when it comes to water exposure. Movement. Specht Sohne opted for Miyota 8215 movement here. It is a reputable Japanese movement that has been around for ages, so no concerns here. It is also an upgraded version of this movement, which, amongst other small changes, includes a hacking function, which the older version didn't have. So now if we pull the crown into the second position to set the time, the second hand will stop. Also, somewhat more pronounced rotor sound, which Miyota 8000 series movements are famous or rather infamous for, is pretty well controlled in this watch. Dial. Okay, this is one of the highlights of this timepiece. Specht Sohne offers 5 different colorways: green, blue, ice blue, white and black. I went for the green one. The dial background pattern is 3-dimensional and looks really good. The baton style hour indices are applied and are well filled with lume, as we will see in a moment. The date window is nicely framed and fits well on the dial. Okay, the date background is not color matched to the dial. As a matter of fact, it is the case for all other colorways, well, except for white, obviously. It probably would be nice to have a color-matching date window, however, I found the crisp black-and-white date being very legible, despite quite a small font, so I am okay with the current design decision of white background. I also like the minimalistic approach to dial writing. We have brand name, automatic under the 12 o'clock marker, and a tiny reminder that we have a Japanese movement here at the bottom of the dial, and that's it. We have button-style hands that complement the button-style hour indices. The hands are well proportioned, and a minute hand stretches well to the printed minute chaptering which is surrounding the dial. And I like the second hand, long polished needle that plays in the light with kind of prominent counterbalance, which is possibly a bit on the large side. However, this counterbalance is filled with lume and provides visibility for the second hand in the dark. So here is the lume footage. Now, it is not clear from the product listing what type of lume is used here, and while it is definitely not a diver level lume, it is still very decent for this type of dress watch. We have a flat sapphire crystal here. The crystal sits ever so slightly proud of the bezel, and the crystal edge has a nice and smooth bevel, so no complaints here. Now, when it comes to anti-reflective coating, well, I couldn't find any references in the product listings, and to be quite honest, it doesn't look like there is any AR applied. Okay, maybe there is some, but it definitely could do with some more. Okay, it doesn't impact the legibility. I can read the time pretty much at any viewing angle. However, a better anti-reflective coating would definitely enhance the view of this really nice dial. As you can see, the dial really pops when the sun rays hit it in the right direction. However, if the viewing angle is different, the dial looks much more subdued. Bracelet. Okay, and now the feature of this watch that is probably noticeable first. This very good looking, in my opinion, integrated bracelet. We have here all the solid links and full stainless steel construction. The integration with the case looks very well. The finishing on top of the bracelet is in line with the case finishing and looks really good. I like the combination of brushed links and mirror polished inside parts, all of it nicely terminated by a subtle bevel on the edges of each link. The bracelet tolerances are nice and tight, actually possibly a bit too tight, and would be nice to have a bit more articulation between the links. And links are connected by pins, which is fine at this price point, and that's where that provided tools becomes really handy. Now, while the finishing on top of the bracelet is pretty good and gives a good quality impression, the finishing on the sides of the links is actually not that great. It's like a highly qualified master did finishing on top of the bracelet and then passed it over to his junior, very junior apprentice to finish off the sides. I mean, the brushing on the sides is okay and consistent, however, the corners are sharp and unrefined, and it is especially noticeable on the links closest to the case. It is not the end of the world, of course, but it is in a contrast with the rest of the finishing of this watch. Moving on to the clasp, we have a simple but very well executed butterfly clasp here. It works well with the overall aesthetics of this watch. Of course, a downside of a butterfly clasp is lack of any macro adjustments, and by not having any half links on the bracelet either, it can be a bit challenging to find a right fit. However, if it's any consolation, the $12,000 IWC Ingenieur watch has exactly the same problem. And now, a $1 million question, how it wears and will it be okay on a 6¼ wrist? I've had this watch for more than a week now, and I must say it wears very comfortably on my about 7-inch wrist. It is well balanced and I think it looks good too. Now, the flat profile of this case is probably not the most ergonomic, however, 10.8mm case height really helps to plant this case on the wrist, and after trying this watch on a 6¼ wrist, as you can see, it works too. I probably wouldn't recommend this watch for the wrists slimmer than 6¼ or maybe 6.1 inch in circumference, simply because of the limitations of articulation of the bracelet. Okay, so what would be my verdict? Well, I think it's a really good watch for the money. As a potential improvements, well, in order of priority, personally, first I would like to see a more effective air coating to give better visibility to this really good looking dial, then more refined finish on the sides of the bracelet, and possibly branding on the crown and the bracelet. What are your thoughts? Well, please do let us know in the comments. And for more Gerald Genta inspired designs, check my video over here, or for anything else, this one over here. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.